Hello everybody and welcome back to this tutorial, and right now let us continue with our errors and our try and except rule. So what we did in the previous tutorial is I showed you how you can actually use try and except with specifying the actual error to catch an error that will prevent from your program crashing. We also took a look at the later example that you can actually specify only the except, and then you will actually catch any error that might occur in your program. But as I said, that is a bad practice because then you will not know what the exact problem was, because there are multiple errors that can actually occur for a certain specific task. We also took a look at the else statement, which I showed you that it also can be used in the try and except rule and not only in the if-else statements. And right now what we're going to take a look at is how you can actually deal with multiple errors without specifying only the except. Now, you can actually use a try and except rule with specifying more than just one error. So you can simply just specify something like this. I will simply just show you an example. Let me open up my idle, open the actual new file, and right here the basic usage or the basic syntax for the usage of multiple errors is something like this. So you just type your try as before. Then right here you will specify your code operation that you want to execute, and in the except, in between the brackets, you can specify multiple errors just by specifying them just like this. So in the open brackets, type here exception1, open square brackets, comma exception2, open square brackets, open square brackets, comma, then you can just type here 3 dots, for example, and then as many errors, 3 dots, and then as many errors as you want, so till the error exception n, which is going to be the last error, and of course you will need to close all of these brackets, as well as the ending bracket right here. So there you can, in the brackets right here, define all the errors that you think can occur with the problem that you might have. And then you can print something like this. So if there is any exception from the given exception list, then execute this code right here. So this code right here, execute when error occurs. So simple as that. And of course, if you want to, you can have your else statement, which will execute if there is no exception involved in this program execution. So if there is no error that occurred in the program, run this part. So this is the basic syntax for usage of this kind of exception handling. And right now we're going to take a look at something different, which we didn't really introduce yet. It is called a final block. Now, a final block is a part of the code which is a must code to execute. So it will execute whether the try and except rule raised an error or not. The syntax for the actual try and finally statement is this. So just like this, you can simply just type try. Then you can, for example, try to, let's type it in idle. Maybe it is easier for you. So try. And you can just, for example, type here fn equals open, and then you try to open a file, for example, test file. You open it for writing, and then you want to write to that file. So fn.write, you want to write some string. So that string will be, this is my test file. And then instead of specifying except, you can just simply specify finally, and then you can print right here. So finally, file doesn't exist. Oops, but we actually made a mistake. We need to specify it like this. So try, and then fn equals open, and simply just specifying the name without opening it for writing, and then fn.write. This is my test file. And once you type this right here, then you actually enter the final statement or the finally statement, and you print can't open or find that file. And we will simply just close the file right here. And you can see the actual, let me just find it right here. Yeah, it is because we added it right here. It says can't open or find that file. Then this error right here is prompted because I actually typed this at the wrong spot. I should have typed it in the try statement right here. Then we would not run onto this error. Now, basically what this finally statement does is it will execute it either way. But this program, for example, is useful if you do not have permission to open a certain file that you know exists in the writing mode. Then this will produce the following result, which is going to be can't open or find that file. So the same example can be written differently, such as, for example, like this, by specifying the correct error. So go down here and just type here try. And we can use F to define a file descriptor. We can open, let's say, test file for writing. So we open it for writing. Then in the try and accept statement, we enter a try and finally statement. So try right after you open it. And if that doesn't work, you will just simply go to the accept rule. And in case that does work, you will go to this next try rule, which will be f.write. This is my file. This will be a string that will be written to the file itself. And this try statement will have a finally statement, which will get executed. And it will say something that will be useful in both cases. So, for example, going to close this file. So this is something that is going to get printed out to the screen anyway. And then we can actually close the file. And after that, we enter the accept, which we are going to take a look at the IO error, which we already covered in the previous video, which is an error that will occur if a file doesn't exist and we try to, for example, open it. So accept IO error, we can print that file doesn't exist, exclamation mark. Simply by specifying here enter, you can see it prints out 15, which is going to be the size of the actual bytes that is written to the file. So this produced this number. And then the finally statement will always print this. So going to close this file. We didn't run onto the any error. And right now in that directory, which is going to be our Python directory, we should have the actual test file opened for writing, and then we closed it. So right now let me delete it because I forgot to actually change my directory to the desktop environment. Right now I need to go to the app data, local, programs, Python, and here if I just type dir, I go to Python 37. Let me just find, okay, so here is the test file, let us remove it. Okay, RM is for Linux and del is for Windows. So del test file. And right now our test file is no longer in this directory, which is good. So remember to always change your directory to desktop before actually trying to create some files or read for files, because then you will be stuck if you don't with the files in the Python directory, which you don't really need. So also another thing that we should cover is the exception that can have an argument. Now what I mean by that is basically the argument is a value that gives additional information about the problem itself. So it can be helpful if you're trying to actually debug your code. The contents of the argument vary by the exception itself, of course, so the argument will not be the same for the zero division error and also for the error that will occur when you're trying to open a file that doesn't exist. So, of course, the argument will be different. So right now, let us take a look at that. The basic example would be try, and then we specify the actual operation that we want to execute, and then accept exception type as argument. And then we actually type accept and then the exception type as the argument. And then you can print the value of the argument in the accept block of the code. So let us see how that will look like. Let's actually create a function that will try to convert different strings to integers. Okay, so that function will be called convert. Okay, so the function convert will take a variable as an input, And what it will try to do with that variable is it will try to return the value of the actual integer. Whoops, not open and close brackets. Right here we need to type here return, then space, and then we will try to return the integer value of the variable. Okay, so this is what is going to be executed in our actual code right here, in our actual try statement. But let's not try to return it, let's actually print it to the screen. So print integer of the variable, open and close two brackets, and then we will just type here accept. Now make sure that you're still in the function, so it has to be indented in the function code, and then accept, and we'll specify value error, which is going to be an actual error that will be retrieved. If you, for example, try to convert a string to an integer, the Python 3 will run into an error. It will tell you can't really convert strings to integers. So accept value error, and we will store it in the argument variable, and then we will print that argument to the screen. So print the argument does not contain numbers, and then we can add the new line character as well as adding the actual argument. Okay, so this is our function. Right now, if you, for example, try to convert, or let's say a equals string from 1 to 3, okay, and you try to convert a, you can see it gets printed to the screen 1 to 3, so our function works. But for example, if we have string equals www, and you try to convert this to an integer, so convert string, you will see that we actually get, let me just find where it is, value error. The argument does not contain numbers. Okay, so here it is. We successfully printed it. I was searching it up here, but it actually went down here. So print the argument. Oh no, never mind. Argument. Wait. Bad operand type for unary plus value error. During of handling of the above exception, another exception occurred. Okay, so we converted it, then we print the argument does not contain numbers. Yeah, probably the problem right here is that it actually needs to be converted to a string in order to be printed out. So we are going to try it right here. So we don't actually type it twice right here. We're going to simply, let me tab everything one step back, and right here we're going to print the string of the actual argument. Maybe that is the problem. Let's save it. Yeah, before we actually save it, we need to call the convert function of www. Okay, now we can save it. So save it in Python programs, argument error .py. Then we try to run it. Wait, bad operand type for unary. But what if we actually try to print it simply just like this? Save it. Yeah, okay, so here it is. Now you can't really convert the argument, okay, so I was thinking I thought you actually could, but it doesn't seem that you can actually convert the argument to a certain variable type, such as a string, so you can't really print it like that. You can't concat it to the string right here, though you can print it like this. So we print the argument does not contain numbers, then the new line character, and right below that, it will print out the argument right here. So you can just type here in, so you can just see here that the program outputted invalid literal for integer with base 10. So it gave us an error that we can't really convert a string of 3 letters into an integer, which is actually correct. That is why our program basically crashed. But right here, it didn't crash with an error like this. Right here, it will actually print this to the screen, and it will continue executing if there is any other code left. So we can try that one out as well. Right after you type this, you can just print this part of code comes after the error. So we can see that it actually does execute, or the program execution does continue right after the error. As we can see right here, we run the program once again and it says this part of code comes after the error. So everything works perfectly. So basically that would be about it for this lecture. I hope you enjoyed it and I hope I will see you in the next one. Bye.